All right, today we're diving into a really key idea from the traffic light framework, the difference between building and borrowing green. We're going to unpack two very different but equally powerful ways our nervous system can find its way back to a state of regulation. You know that feeling, right? When you're just stuck on high alert, everything feels like a threat? That's that orange state of fight or flight. Or maybe you've had those times where you feel completely flat, just shut down, what the framework calls the red state. These are super common experiences when our nervous system is out of whack. So the whole point, of course, is to find our way back to green. Now, this isn't about being perfectly calm all the time, not at all. It's about being in a state of regulation where you feel connected and present. The big question is, how do we get there? And even more importantly, how do we build up our ability to stay there? And that brings us to our first major strategy. Let's start with something called borrowing green. This is all about finding that stability right when you need it the most. So what on earth is borrowing green? Well, think of it as a temporary, externally supported state of regulation. Your system gets to settle down, not because you've willed it to, but because the conditions around you have made it possible. It's a change in your current state. It gives you that crucial relief in the moment, but, and this is key, it's not a permanent change. A huge part of borrowing green is co-regulation. It basically means you're accessing stability with a little help from the outside, either from your environment or, very often, from other people. That external support is what reduces the immediate pressure on your own nervous system. So, what does this actually look like in real life? Well, it could be spending time with someone who has a regulated presence. It might be creating a really clear and predictable routine for yourself. Or it could be about reducing the demands on your plate, getting proper rest, or feeling physically and financially safe. See the pattern? It's all about strategically changing your environment to create a sense of safety. Okay, so that's borrowing. That's the short-term fix. But what about the long game? Well, this is where our second concept comes in, building green. This is all about forging real, lasting strength from the inside out. Building green is a whole different ballgame. We're talking about the long-term development of regulation that you generate yourself, internally. This isn't a temporary fix. It's about creating a durable, deep-seated shift through repetition and experience. It's the difference between a passing state and a permanent trait. You can honestly think of building green as neuroplasticity in action. Every single time you practice a regulating skill, you are literally, physically strengthening the neural pathways for it in your brain. You're making your internal foundation stronger over time. And the ways we build are different from how we borrow. This involves active practice. Things like taking that split-second pause before you respond to something, or intentionally reframing a thought that's dragging you down. It could be practicing breathing exercises, or just noticing when you've been knocked off balance by something small and guiding yourself back to green. Each time you do this, you're strengthening that regulatory muscle. Okay, so we've got these two big ideas, borrowing and building. But how do they actually work together? Because this right here is absolutely crucial. It's all about the sequence. You have to stabilize before you can strengthen. And honestly, this one idea is a total game changer. You cannot build effectively when overwhelmed. Just think about it. If your system is constantly in a state of high alert or total shutdown, it has absolutely no resources left over to build new pathways. It's just trying to survive. Looking at this side by side makes it so clear. On one side, you have borrowing. That's state-based, it offers temporary relief, it reduces that feeling of activation, and it's supported from the outside. Then you look at building, that's about developing a trait. It's about long-term change, recalibrating your whole system's sensitivity, and it's all generated from within. So this really lays out the path forward. First, you stabilize. You have to use those borrowing strategies to get out of that overwhelm and find some solid ground. Then, and only then, can you start to effectively strengthen your system with building practices. Needing support isn't a failure. It's the first step in the strategy. So let's wrap this up with a brilliant metaphor that ties everything together. The goal isn't to get to a place where you never need support. The goal is to use that support strategically. It's all about borrowing in order to build. Here's the first part of it. Borrowing green widens the lane. Just picture that for a second. When you're overwhelmed, it feels like you're driving in a tiny, narrow lane with no room to move. Borrowing strategies, they give you more space. They give you that breathing room you desperately need just to function. And then, here comes the second part. Building green strengthens the road.
So once you've created that wider lane for yourself, the building practices you do make the actual road itself stronger, more durable, and way more resilient for the long journey ahead.
So, what is the big takeaway here? It's simply this: needing support is not a weakness. It is the intelligent, adaptive strategy your nervous system uses to create the safety it needs to eventually develop a new, stronger capacity. It's the foundation for all growth.
And that leaves us with one final thought to carry with you. As you go about your day, just ask yourself this one simple question: where can I borrow today in order to build for tomorrow?